This shows results for the first type, the partial restraint ROPS. In 1987, J.L. Dahl proposed a lightweight roll cage with 3 tethers that allowed some rider movement, shown in the left photograph. Testing by failure analysis and simulation by DRI found that the injury risks, the red bar on the left, from the rider's head striking the ROPS cage and the tethers causing spinal injuries during rollover, were nearly as large as the injury benefits, shown by the green bar, disqualifying it as a safety device. A second concept was put forward in 1991 by F.H. Johnson, who proposed a heavier cage with shoulder and waist belts, which allowed a small amount of rider movement, and modified the ATV to have a longer and wider wheelbase and a lower seat, as shown in the right-hand photograph. Failure analysis tested it and found that, in addition to adding 125 kilograms of weight, it would introduce new accident and injury modes, as well as degraded visibility, mobility, utility, ride quality, ergonomics, and practicality. In our simulations of 800 rollovers, we found that the injury risks, shown by the red bar to the right of the photo, were half as large as the injury benefits, and that there were even greater injury risks if the rider did not wear the belt, which can frequently happen in the real world for many vehicles. After reviewing the Johnson ROPS, the CPSC concluded that, in addition, it would have an adverse influence on the stability of the ATV due to raising the center of gravity, and that the harness would impose an inherent limitation on the movement required for ATV use. Their letter to the U.S. Congress goes on to conclude that the CPSC staff does not believe that roll cages are a feasible way to reduce ATV injuries. This shows several no-restraint ROPS, the second type that was evaluated. A U-bar ROPS, on the left, was proposed in the UK, and the government's health and safety executive asked our firm to evaluate it. We did computer simulations and full-scale tests that validated the simulations. We found that the injury risks for 800 rollovers, the red bar at the left, were nearly the same as the injury benefits, the green bar, due to the ROPS impacting the rear of the neck and the head, as well as its entangling the rider. This test video shows the U-bar ROPS impacting the rider's lower back, with potential for paralysis, increasing the measured injuries above those of the baseline ATV. These overall findings were corroborated by MIRA, a UK test institute. The UK government relied upon the simulations and tests in recommending that ROPS not be fitted to ATVs. Likewise, the T-bar ROPS, in the middle photo, from New Zealand, which we also full-scale tested and simulated, had injury risks that were actually greater than the injury benefits, again, from the bar impacting the rear of the neck and the head, as well as entangling the rider. The V-bar ROPS, proposed by D.A. Robertson in Australia, on the right, was found to have injury risks equal to the injury benefits in 113 rollovers from its impacting the head and entangling the rider. The high injury risks relative to the benefits disqualify all 3 of these as safety devices. In 2003, the Monash University Accident Research Center reported to the Victorian coroner that this no-restraint category of ROPS we just saw violated the fundamental requirements for an effective rollover protection system, which is the combination of a protective structure and the use of an effective occupant restraint system, which comprises a suitable seat with backrest and side bolsters, and a 3-point or preferably a 4-point seatbelt system. We would certainly agree with this statement. Monash went on to propose such a full restraint ROPS with a 4-point seatbelt and a wider track, which our company evaluated by means of full-scale tests with test riders and with rollover simulations, which were presented to the Victorian coroner. However, we found that the injury risks, the red bar, in 113 rollovers with the full restraint ROPS were substantially greater than the injury benefits, as shown by the green bar, due to impacts between the rider and the ROPS, the crushing of the rider's limbs between the ground and the ROPS, and increased injuries to the legs as they flailed outside the vehicle. In addition, a new type of injury emerged, high G brain injuries, due to tightly belting the rider to a relatively lightweight vehicle fitted with a relatively stiff ROPS. All of these injury risks disqualified it as a safety device. In addition, testing found that the ATV's modified wider track, which was needed to counteract the higher weight and center of gravity, along with the rider being tightly belted to the ATV, resulted in pitch instability, as well as degraded visibility, mobility, utility, ride quality, ergonomics, and practicality. After hearing all of the evidence, the Victorian coroner made no recommendation to fit ROPS on ATVs. For vehicles for which ROPS have a small risk and a large benefit, there are many of these, and some examples are shown here. ROPS have been found to work on vehicles that have, in comparison to motorcycles and ATVs, conventional seats with seat backs and feet forward, having greater size, greater weight, and greater cost, but having less mobility. That is, vehicles that are less able to go places where motorcycles and ATVs can go. ROPS can work on vehicles such as recreational and utility off-road vehicles. We've evaluated the Yamaha Rhino and the Honda Big Red shown here, as well as dune buggies. In the 1980s, we evaluated the Honda Pilot shown here, as well as, of course, many types of on-road vehicles, including passenger cars, light trucks, and vans. In summary, ATVs meet 29 safety requirements of the ANSI ATV standard and also have 10 other safety features such as, recalling Bothwell's research, smooth flexible body contours and absence of external projections. Second, ROPS fundamentally require both a protective structure and a restraint system, including a seat back, side bolsters, and belt system. Third, ROPS can work well on larger, heavier, less mobile, more costly vehicles that have conventional seating. And finally, on small straddle seat vehicles like ATVs, 3 different categories of ROPS have been found to have large injury risks in comparison to their injury benefits, disqualifying them as safety devices. ROPS also raise the center of gravity, decreasing stability, unless wheelbase and track are also increased, which decreases mobility. And if ROPS also involve a seat belt, there are additional problems with stability, visibility, mobility, utility, ride quality, ergonomics, and practicality for small straddle seat vehicles like ATVs. Thank you very much for your kind attention.